everyone, with another episode of That's Right, Bitches. I've been kind of bad, and when I say kind of bad, I mean very, very bad about minisodes. My original thought was I would do one a week. I've literally done one ever. And believe it or not, we're on like a month and a half of this bullshit. I intend to do another mini-sode, and I think this is going to be the week I can start to get into that habit, because this will be the full-length episode we're doing on a Monday. I'm filming and recording on a Monday, and then this will go up on Tuesday, and then the mini-sode I'll film and record a little later this week, and I'll get that up on Friday. Wow. Like, shit is happening, man. So you have that to look forward to or agonize over, whichever way you slice it. Welcome, everyone. So last week, on Friday, I went to Dallas with a few of my close friends. And we went to Dallas, which is a few hours away, for the night to listen to a live podcast. One of my favorite podcasters, and I think I've mentioned her before, but if I haven't, her name is Jackie Schimmel, and she is the host of a podcast called The Bitch Bible. And now, if you are sensitive to, I don't know, things like bestiality, or maybe just the word cunt said over and over again, or really just a general malaise over people and the way in which we glorify Instagram celebrities, like, this is not the podcast for you. This one or that one. So get the fuck out. But she's been podcasting for like 5 years. She's actually pretty young. This is what I find so interesting about her. She's made quite a name for herself in a really respectable way that a lot of people who are like social media famous, if you will, haven't. Like, she started podcasting before it was so ubiquitous. I think she started podcasting in like shortly after the Serial podcast came on the scene. And, you know, if you're a podcast fan, that's probably, I would imagine Serial is how like 98% of all podcast listeners came to be. That's certainly true of me. I remember it distinctly. We were living in DC, well, Arlington to be specific, but we were still living in the DC area. And I had one of those jobs that I hated. I was actually, you know what? I actually quite liked the job. It was one of my most senior roles. It was the manager of a management team. So I was managing a whole department of junior sales reps and also the junior sales managers of those people. So I was like 2 levels removed from the people executing, and I had about 120 people or so like within my department. I reported up to like an executive director. It was, you know, like arguably what I had been working toward my entire career up to that point. And I was so excited to get into that job and like, get people to be really fucking good at a job that most people are really fucking bad at. However, that came to a screeching halt when it became clear that I worked for the devil. Meryl Streep has nothing on this devil who wore LL Bean at best, okay? This lady, oh my God. Anyone who I used to work with from this company knows who I'm talking about probably. And you know what? I don't give a fuck if she knows that this is going on. I doubt that she listens. I doubt she has nary a Facebook account, let alone an Instagram, to catch on to my shenanigans. Neither here nor there. The point is, I worked for a witch of a woman. Truly the most... Hold on. Yeah. one of the two most evil people I've ever worked. Oh shit, maybe three. I have worked for some very evil people. And that's just what happens when you work in sales, y'all. And there may be other industries and other kinds of work that you can do where it just naturally attracts psychopaths. I'm sure the medical community is another place like that. But, sales is a pretty obvious one. So it's funny when you think about women in sales, because I got a whole different tirade on women and men, but men in particular in sales. They're just some of the most disgusting, ruthless, moralless people that you might ever encounter. However, they're often some of the most fun. And that's where things get complicated. But I worked for this terrible, heinous beast of a woman. To her credit, she was very successful. She was very smart. She was as dry as a ShamWow, like very little to no personality, and evil. That's just the best way to put it. Here's an example. One of the first times it became clear to me that I was working for Satan himself was early on, probably 6 to 8 weeks into this job. It's like the honeymoon phase is just slightly starting to wear off, but you still really like it. Well, there was, I don't remember the details, but there was we were working on some project, right, that was supposed to roll out to this broader junior sales team. And there was, my memory sucks so bad. I blame it on an addiction to the shiniest object that is in front of me at any given moment. Like, I can't for the life of me sometimes remember these like super distinct, it must be a coping mechanism. It's like my way of like avoiding the pain of a memory or something. Like, I can't remember the details. So just bear with me here. But the point is, there was some project. There were like these two options. We could do it option A way or option B way. And I wanted to recommend to the senior sales leader, so her boss, right? I wanted to recommend, like, let's just call it option B. And she pushed back on me in a one-on-one meeting that we were having and said, no, we should do option A, and here's why. I was experienced enough at this point in my career to know, you know what? I'm going to pick my battles. I'm still building some political capital with her. I don't really care enough to fight on this point. So that's fine. We'll do the option A if she thinks that's a better choice. So we do that. So whatever. We get in this meeting. She's there. Her boss is there. And I was like supposed to present back this thing and this recommendation. So I'm like, so for that reason, we're going to recommend this option A. Well, her boss, he's like, I think option B makes more sense. Can you provide some, clarity around why you're whatever. And then this bitch jumps in on top, piles on and goes, yeah, Melissa, why are you recommending option A? And I was like, holy fucking shitballs. This had never happened to me, by the way, because I think even when I was younger, I think most people I worked with knew I was a bit of a loose cannon and unlikely to let someone like entrap me in this way. And like, I would have spoken up pretty much anywhere, but this was the first time I was with such senior people and such a large role for myself. And in that moment, it was just like, okay, I've got your fucking number, bitch. That's it. You're fucking dead to me. And I will never share anything with you ever again, because she fucking threw me under the bus for a decision she forced me to make. It was disgusting and deplorable, and really just all the nails were already in the coffin of my perspective of people in positions of authority. But this woman it was like she dug the coffin up out of the ground, pried it open, and then fucking started duct taping it shut. It was the last of that in the thing for me where working for other people and believing that anyone has any sense of loyalty, that was it for me. It was just like, okay, we're done here. People suck. Fuck everyone, and fuck this bitch a lot. And hopefully, you know what? That's probably her problem. Like, she probably hadn't had sex in years. She was miserable. Just miserable. Ugh. Okay. But why am I talking about that? Who knows? Anyway, welcome to another week's episode of That's Right, Bitches. I remember. We were talking about going to this live podcast. So, I remember exactly why. So Jackie Schimmel starts this podcast in 2015. And 2015 was the year that Kyle and I moved to Charlottesville and Crozet, to be specific. Not that that means anything to you. Like 300 people live there. So to all of the 300 people living in Crozet, we moved there in 2015. But all the year ahead, the year before in 2014, we were building our house. And this bitch cunt of a boss, I had started talking to her over the summer of 2014 to say, hey, like, we're considering a move, that might mean I would want to be remote. Like, I want to be, like, basically starting to try and have the conversation with her about, hey, can I do my job remotely? Because the reality is I could. In fact, I had a counterpart who already was doing her job remotely. So there had been a precedent set for it. And obviously I was moving 2.5 hours away. Like, Kyle and I made the decision without me even going and fucking making sure it would work out for me, made the decision that we were moving on with our lives. And that included getting the fuck out of DC. So throughout the year of 2014, it started in the summer that we started building our house. And I had to keep it fucking silent because I was genuinely concerned I was not going to be allowed to do my job remotely. Like, that's how shitty it was to work for this woman, because with most any other manager, especially if you were doing well at your position, you would have been okay to work remotely, at least as like a trial period. Because bear in mind, I would not have been the first person in the history of this company to do this. So for like 6 months, I was totally quiet and hush-hush about the fact that I was building a house. And that's really shitty because, like, well, at least at work, not with my friends or my family, but at work or among my work friends, I couldn't talk about it because if I did, I didn't want it to get back to her and, fuck myself completely. Like, my whole thing was, we're going to get this house built and then it's going to be built and then I'm going to tell her that I am moving. And then if she wants to fire me, then she's going to have to fucking fire me, So the whole time we were building this house for 2.5 hours each way, almost, two times a month or so. We'd go on the weekends to like check the house and whatever. Or sometimes I had to go by myself even because like Kyle couldn't join me. So I would listen to Serial, the podcast that's all about Adnan Syed. That was the year I think that it came out, and it was just so captivating. And I'm like, what is this? Is this a show? Is this a Dateline episode? Is this old-timey radio? Like, what is happening? But I couldn't get enough. So I believe right about that time, that's when Jackie Schimmel started podcasting. She came in right at the right time. I wish I'd fucking known, but I didn't fucking know, and that's why it's 2020 and I'm just now getting started and it will probably never go anywhere. But it's interesting to me because I think she was like maybe 24 when she started podcasting, because she's not even 30. Like, maybe she's turning 30 this year. But that's pretty fucking impressive to have the foresight to recognize, like, all right, why not? And I don't know I don't know what her listener base is. I mean, I don't know her journey. It's not my business, and I just don't care enough to get into it. But my point is, she's been doing this shit a long time. She is one of the OGs of podcasting. And yet, despite the fact that she's been podcasting about as long as anybody else, if not much longer, she's never done like this tour thing, which is kind of nuts because I feel like that's where the most money is to be made. Like, I was trying to do the math on it and be extraordinarily conservative. I think she's doing like 5, maybe 6 shows. And the tickets that we had at the venue where we went were $50 a piece. You got to figure she's selling at least a couple hundred, if not more, probably many more. Again, I was being conservative. And anyway, the long and short of it was she probably made just from this week alone of events like $100,000. And again, I bet you it was significantly more. So for one fucking week, you got to figure you got to take out the venue costs, but that can't be terrible, right? It's literally, turns out it's like not even a 2-hour thing, but like the venue costs, I don't think she has much of a staff. Fuck if I know. I guarantee that bitch walked away making as much money as like a 3rd grade teacher does in an entire year. And that was in 5 days for her. So good for her. Good for her. But we went and saw it. And it was good. It was short. That's my number one thing. I felt like, I'm used to listening to a podcast. It's like sometimes well over an hour, more like an hour and a half, but this time we're seeing her in person and it could be like interactive. She's going to do a slideshow. I don't fucking know. She's going to read us her diary. Who knows? But yeah, she was on and off the stage within less than 60 minutes. And it was, it's that there's also the element of like, oh, you're having a good time. So it seems like it's really fast. But I figure, yeah, for like a $50 ticket, I want the show to be like an hour and 15 minutes. That, to me, that would have been the sweet spot. But it was good. I think she was a little nervous. I think she was a little nervous. She's used to filming alone in her closet. Maybe her kitchen. Not that I would know anything about that. Clearly, I am filming this in my kitchen as we speak every single time I do this. So some people just are not cut out for a live audience. I don't know what that's like. It must be really interesting to not need the approval of others. Really, really interesting. But anyway, so we did that on Friday. But more to the point, after like chasing her down and trying to stalk her at her hotel, look, I was trying to buy her breakfast on her room and they wouldn't let me do it. Whatever, I don't care. And I'm actually kind of glad it didn't happen because it would have gotten expensive really quick. But, it's fine. I'm not a psycho, I swear. So after that, we went back to the hotel. Throughout the evening, I probably had like 8 or 9 drinks, and I don't drink often. So here's a quick little walk with me, if you will, through my drinking history. And I say that in a way that sounds very negative, but that's not really the case. So I was quite a goody two-shoes growing up. Like I, never touched a drug, hate to this day, hate the smell of a cigarette. Like I have cracked many a cigarette in half. I think they're fucking disgusting. I've never had the interest in trying them because I don't hate myself. Not like that anyway. I've never tried a cigarette. I never did a drug. I also never drank until I turned 21. And spoiler alert, I'm not Mormon. So it's a tough thing for me to explain because I think a lot of people that are like quote unquote straight edge when they're younger do so because often like that's how they're raised. And I wasn't raised like that. My dad smokes. My parents didn't drink in the house. Like my parents never had wine or booze in the house. However, when they went out, like my mom would have a glass of wine or like a cocktail or something. And I wasn't raised in a religious home. So my choices were fucking legitimately my choices. So I didn't drink until I turned 21. In part, I think because at that point in my life, I did have fear and concern of authority. And I could probably do with just a scotch more of that part of my brain because I don't really have any anymore. And like, that's a different kind of a problem, but I digress. So I don't know if it was like, oh, I'm like, well, this is illegal and I don't want to get in trouble. But like, bear in mind, I went to a university that was like a small college town. There was never not an occasion where I was in a position that I could have had a drink if I had wanted to. I just fucking didn't want to. You know what I mean? What you see, what you hear, this only gets extraordinarily worse with alcohol. And I know that now about myself, and I kind of figured about the same then, So, I was pretty fucking smart about myself, even as a 20-year-old. But when I turned 21, I started to drink, and even still, I mostly just drank very socially. I never drank by myself. I wasn't like sitting in my apartment or something, like having wine or a cocktail. Once I graduated college, every now and again I'd buy a bottle of wine, but it was really just like, okay, let's get together, let's get really slutty, let's put on our makeup for 3 hours while we drink some really shitty $3 Chuck. Anybody remember that? Like TJ's $3 wine. Is it $3 or $2? I don't know. Whatever it is now, it's probably $20 because #inflation. So drinking a bunch of wine while you get ready, and then going out and like having horrible, horrible shots bought to you by guys that you knew you would never go home and have sex with, but who you would let believe that in order to get said free shot, But, things have changed now that I'm in my mid-30s. I do drink semi-regularly, I guess. Like, what I mean is I'll drink probably once or twice a week. Not that much at this point, but I will have wine. Wine is something that I enjoy. I do like wine. I don't drink as much liquor because I don't really love much liquor. I enjoy liquor in the form of a margarita. I also enjoy a good like gin cocktail or really nice martini. Like that's kind of it, I stay away from the brown liquors because I'm not a hobo, But I do drink every now and again. We're very big fans of a wine pairing with a dinner. That's often how I'm drinking if I'm having wine in particular. Or like if there's a party, I'll drink at a party. But I'm still not like cracking open a cold one at the end of a hard day. It's just like, that's not my thing, I do not drink beer. I stopped drinking beer like 5 years ago probably because I was like, well, you know what? I don't want to feel like I just ate an entire loaf of bread. So I stopped doing that. But all this to say, I drank like 8 or 9 drinks throughout the entire evening on Friday for this podcast thing. And I slept like fucking shit. I slept like shit for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I always sleep pretty bad when I'm in a hotel, especially for the first night. You're just like not aware of your surroundings and like your reptile snake brain's freaking out. It doesn't know who's going to attack you and when. So it's just kind of like hard to sleep. And then the bed was hard, but then also I was fucking drunk, And like who sleeps well when they're drunk? You might pass out, but you're not getting restorative sleep. So that was pretty bad. I talked about my Whoop, the wearable fitness device, a couple episodes ago. And I explained how one of the things it tracks is your heart rate variability. And also it gives you a percentage of your recovery. According to how I slept on Friday night, my recovery was 7%. Yep. Soak that in for a second. Out of 100. I've never seen it below for myself. I've never seen it below, I think, 30%, Like that just basically means you're 3 steps away from dying. Half dead. But I was 7% recovered, and my heart rate variability, bear in mind, healthy is between 50 and 60, and normally I'm around 60. My heart rate variability was 17. So again, dead. I was half a martini from dead. So I bring it up to say a couple things. Obviously, we know that alcohol is poison. Like legit, it is poison for your body. That's all it's doing. It's not replenishing. Anybody who wants to go on about how like, well, wine's actually really good for your heart. Fuck off. It's not. Do you know what's good for your heart? Antioxidants, fruit, wine, alcohol, tain't good for you. That's not to say I'm not going to ever have a glass of wine again, but just to say, check your fucking self. I get it if you enjoy having wine. You can enjoy having wine and not try to explain it away as like a health food. It can coexist in your healthy lifestyle, but what you don't want to do and what you shouldn't do is defend it as a health food. That I don't have any fucking tolerance for, because even when, and that was a fairly extreme example, obviously I do not have 8 to 9 drinks on any kind of a regular basis in a day or even a week. At best, I might have 3 to 4, glasses of wine or something at a party, and that'd be it. And that might happen 2 times in an entire month. But, so alcohol is poison. And even when I've had just 1 or 2 glasses of wine in an evening, I find that while not nearly as extreme, same shit happens. My resting heart rate goes through the roof, and now the heart rate variability, now that I'm able to track it, drops dramatically. Like your heart has to work so hard. So like if you think about alcoholics, obviously alcoholics can take a huge fucking hit on their liver, but it's also why they can end up having like heart disease and heart issues as they get older, because your heart's just having to work so much harder to let your body go through all of its normal processes. And also it's probably why, in case you've never, maybe you have noticed, hopefully you've noticed, if you've ever had too many drinks, or even if you've just had 1 or 2, especially as you get older, you're hotter when you sleep. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like you wake up and you're in cold sweats. You feel like maybe you peed yourself at night. No, you're just sweating. It's your body trying to get the poison out of your half-dead carcass, basically. So, I'm not obviously, I'm not the kind of person who thinks that wine is health food. I'm not a regular drinker, but it really gave me pause. I was like, yeah, I had a good time. I don't regret it. I didn't act crazy. Apparently I did some weird shit when we got back to the hotel with some quick change in my robe. I put my robe on and as soon as we got in, and then I took it off immediately right in front of my friends. I don't know. I wasn't there, but I didn't do anything that was harmful other than just being kind of a dumbass. But it really did give me pause. Especially at this point in my life, I'm very invested in my health. I care a lot. Everything I do from a what am I ingesting kind of thing, or how am I approaching the situation, is very much around is this good for me, and how am I taking care of myself? And I'm just not. You're just not when you drink, especially if you drink too much. So, I don't exactly know where that's going to take me. I can't say that I'm never going to have a drink again. We like to travel. We like to eat at fancy fucking restaurants, and we like a wine pairing. But I don't know. I think next time we're just being social, I think I'd be very, very, very slow to drink, just because I don't want to fucking feel that way. I was actually really, really fortunate to not have a hangover on Saturday. Yeah, because I usually can get very hungover from way less, so I don't know what the fuck happened there. But I felt fortunate that I had just a teensy bit of like a little bit of a numb sort of kind of a headache, but not even that bad. So, needless to say, I went to bed at 8 p.m. on Saturday. And I slept until 9 a.m. the next morning. It was great. And my heart rate variability shot up real high. My recovery was back together. I was actually very impressed I was able to bounce back as quickly as I did. And I think that's another interesting point and take on the human body is it's very adaptive. If you treat your body like shit, then your body will turn to shit. Likewise, if you tend to the garden of your body, it will blossom and flower and be fruitful for you. So yeah, just some food for thought, just some drink for thought, maybe. Which reminds me, it's time for some water. Hold on. Okay, but here we are. So today I was going to talk about fitness. Again, sort of all of our topics up to this point, the 1800 foot, 35,000 foot. What's the thing when you're saying a very high level view, a 35,000 foot view? Let's just go there. We'll say that. We're going to look at this from a 35,000 foot view because there's a lot of other elements to the topic or whatever, but, I want to talk about fitness today. That was what I wanted to talk a little bit about last week, and we just didn't have time. So let me let me also start at the beginning. Let me talk more about me. I know that's what you're here for. I know that you're into it, and so I'm going to give the people what they want. I am nothing if not a giver, a true humanitarian, you might say. I probably not surprising to you. Fucking hated working out for a real long time, really, really long time. I've never played a sport in my life. I really don't like to sweat. Especially when I'm not expecting to. I grew boobs. I grew the same boobs I have right now at 11 years old, which pretty much immediately made running a fucking nightmare. And just in general, I just didn't want to mess my hair and my makeup or my clothes. So I was not a very active child. And I didn't have, being an only child, it wasn't like I had siblings to look at who were active. My parents did not really work out in a way that that was observable as I was growing up. So fitness wasn't necessarily something I was against. I did, by the time I was like 16, by the time I could drive myself, I did have a gym membership and I did start doing that, but I had no idea what I was doing. I would go, I'd hop on an elliptical machine or a treadmill like so many other fucking basic bitches before me, and then I'd head to the weights and like do a few arm curls and then do 100 crunches because that's what Britney Spears said she did, and to me, that was fitness and that was working out. And it was awful and I hated it, but I did it because I just didn't want to be fat. That was my North Star for a long, long time. I was like, I have to work out because I don't want to be fat. And then in college, I started doing some group fitness classes. We had a very nice rec center and fitness classes. We had there was Pilates, there was spin. I'm sure there were other things. I didn't do those. I would go and again, I'd hop on an elliptical or a fucking Stairmaster. I'd sign up at the thing. You had to sign up and get yourself on a fucking wait list for a stupid cardio machine. And I do some weights. I do some stretches. Again, didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I looked at other people like a goddamn creep and was like, that looks like something I could do. Guess I'll do that for 3 sets of 10 reps? ? And then all of a sudden it was like, it's my turn on the Stairmaster. And then I would just, hop on and listen to my iPod. I had a mini iPod. I think I had a shuffle at one point. Oh my God. Those were the days, really. You couldn't really be that much more distracted than just skip, next song. When I get home, I can't wait to build my new playlist on my computer. We lived in the dark ages. But again, kind of nice just kind of nice. Anyway, it was a simpler time. It was 2006. Actually, no, I graduated 2000. It was 2004. So I would do some workouts every now and again. It was a lot for me to go. And then I graduated college and I got really lucky for 2-3 years after college. That was when my metabolism was at its fucking peak. And I was just so skinny. I was skinny. I didn't have a huge ass at this point, and I didn't have hips really. So in my mind, I was perfect in that regard. I had curves, but I had big boobs. I had relatively small hips still. And I was just skinny everywhere else. I was I am that bitch, Man, it was a special time in my life. This is before Kyle, and I would just get asked out on the street, which in retrospect is weird and creepy probably. But again, it was a different time. This was pre-smartphones. There were no dating apps. I think there were websites, but it was still so taboo and unusual, and people didn't want to admit to being on them. And being asked out by someone in real life was not odd. Maybe odd to just be wandering down the street, but hey, I lived in a city. I'm sure it wasn't that unusual. Point is, I looked great. And so I used it as a great excuse for not working out. That and I was I don't want to do my hair. It's going to get all sweaty because I am a sweaty bitch. I get sweaty just by looking at people working out. It just pours out of me like a fucking, like some kind of a criminal arrested in an interrogation room, just like pouring sweat, like a fucking construction worker on the hottest day in Alabama, and also sitting under a Popeyes heat lamp or something. I am a sweaty bitch. And the worst part is I sweat on my face. Like, some people can sweat on their back. To those people, I say, I'd trade you in a second. Or they sweat in their ass. You sweat in your feet. You got sweaty palms. All of this sounds far preferable to me than the way that I sweat. When I sweat, it comes all out of my scalp, my face, my neck, my chest. It's all in the most visible place of your body. So there's just no getting around it. My hair would be fucked. And at that point, I had very different priorities because I was, after all, trying to get a man. Oh, it's funny because it's like true, but it's not. Like, I wasn't trying to get I guess I was. I mean, I was dating. I just wanted to be attractive to men is really what it was. But I also didn't really want to be tied down because if I had a serious boyfriend, I couldn't go on dates with many other boys. Do you see what I mean? So I needed my hair to look great. But then eventually I got another gym membership, and again, I just started doing more of the same shit. Like, that's basically where my journey was fitness-wise through like half my life until I turned about 30 years old. So I always did just like the regular gym thing. I did have a brief like interruption in my late 20s doing CrossFit. So actually, no, I don't think it was even my late 20s. Let's see. I think around the time I turned 25. So I was like living on my own for a long time. Then I joined a gym, and then eventually I started dating Kyle. And then within about a year or two of me dating Kyle, he was doing Krav Maga. Ooh, when we met, I told you last time he's real goopy. He's always on the cutting edge. So he started doing Krav Maga, and he did that for his fitness. But then for some reason or another, he stopped doing that and started doing CrossFit. And CrossFit was not well known in any regard like it is now. It was, again, dark times, different era. This was probably like 2009, like over a decade ago. So he started doing CrossFit, and that's when we started eating paleo. And so I was interested in what this entailed. Never ever in my entire fucking life had picked up a barbell. So I started doing it because we would go together. And it was actually a really good CrossFit gym that we went to. And I don't think that one's around anymore, which is really too bad. But it was a great CrossFit gym. They made you take a series of foundational classes so that you could learn the movements. And come to find out, y'all, that is not common I can't say it's not common. You're not guaranteed to find that at every CrossFit gym. And I would tell you, if you've never done CrossFit style workouts or Olympic lifting of some kind, which if you're just like the average person, you haven't, do not sign up with a CrossFit gym that doesn't offer some type of introductory or foundational course to teach you those movements. It's really key that you get those down. But I was lucky enough this place had that. So it was my first time working out with lots of weight and at a high intensity capacity like that. That's the whole thing with CrossFit. It's like functional fitness, short spurts of high work. What is it? I don't fucking know. Whatever. It's a lot, but their workouts tend to be short. But then there's also the inclusion of these like Olympic lifting movements. So I did that for a few months, and that was probably the first time I was genuinely consistent with a workout. I was going 3 times a week. I think that was even, it was maybe 2 or 3 times a week. I think that was even the plan that I had. So I did that for a few months, and my metabolism was still really working in my favor. So I was able to actually see some good results in my body fairly quickly. But then I started to just get bored. I just kind of hated it. It was not culturally at the time, not for me. It was because it wasn't as widely known as it is now. The type of people doing CrossFit were like really serious military guys or like really butch chicks. And that my friends, is where the word bitch comes from. Really butch bitches is what I was trying to say. There were some ordinary people, of course, but it was just a very, it was like a specific audience, and they were fucking obsessed with each other. So I think CrossFit for a long time had that reputation, and maybe it still does, but it just felt very exclusive. Like if you aren't in, you're out. Very like Heidi Klum rules, So I never got ingratiated in the culture, and so I was like, I don't want to go anymore. So I just like lost my interest in that workout. So that was that. Then I went back to a gym, but all of this, just bear in mind, like pretty much this entire time, I'm working out extremely intermittently. Like, yeah, I worked out regularly for about 3 months, but that was all I ever did, So across this decade, I was probably getting in like on average a workout a week, if that. There were probably, for several months, I just didn't work out at all. And then I had a personal trainer before we got married, thinking that was going to be, and it was good. I was much more regular with that goal. But then after we got married, I basically stopped going, and then I just like canceled out my gym membership. And then a couple years passed, and we moved over to Charlottesville, which is kind of what catches us up on this journey of like fitness, at least in my experience. So we moved to Charlottesville, per my earlier rant about working for the devil. So I finally, at the end of the year, when it was like, okay, it's time to shit now, because that comes from shit or get off the pot. I'm not just being like, obscene, but we had to shit. I had to get off the pot. It was time. The house was built, and we were fucking moving. And so I tell my devil boss, like, hey, we're moving. And at this point, I'd already started like fielding some other job offers, and I had one, and I wasn't going to start for a few more weeks. So that was it. I quit because at that point I knew we had not made progress on the discussion of me being able to work remotely. I did not want to work for someone that didn't have my back. And then we just had like more of that bullshit all year long, by the way. So I was like, I gotta go, like, love you like a sister, but we're done here. So I moved, and I was in this new position, and I was working remotely. So that meant I was in a new city, even though it was a couple hours away from DC. I really didn't know anyone, and I was working at a place where I didn't go into an office. So I was basically like in my house all the time. Did not get the chance to meet other people. Kyle had many friends from college, and some of them had girlfriends or wives, but a lot of them didn't at that point in time. And even the ones that did, it was like, okay, your girlfriend's a farmer, and I can barely keep a basil plant alive. We don't have a lot in common. So it was hard. I was really, really isolated. But I found out that there was a Pure Barre studio there in Charlottesville. And even before we had moved, I had heard about Pure Barre, and I didn't know a ton about it, but what I knew was a ballet-inspired workout. And I was like, all right, now we're talking. That really does sound up my alley. It sounds like it's like, similar to Pilates, which I had done. I thought, okay, the ideas about toning and lengthening and stuff from an aesthetic, I'm into that. And, oh, by the way, you lonely bitch, get out there, meet some people, go to a place where you're going to find like-minded people like yourself. And so Pure Barre seemed like a good option. So I stroll on in, and oh, by the way, remember how I said that I hadn't worked out for like 2 years or so at this point? Your girl was chubby. Like, it was probably the heaviest I've ever been. It was the heaviest I've ever been as an adult. Or in my life, I guess, for that matter. And I didn't even realize how it had happened, but it really did happen because of this being isolated and being in my, like, I had recently turned 30 and, just my body changing and all that shit. So, I was like eating okay. And I caveat that by saying, like, when I prepared food, of course I was making like nutritious and paleo style dishes. The issue was I was eating a lot more than that. And we had gone on this extravagant vacation to Spain. We were there for over 10 days, like 10 days, maybe almost 2 weeks. We fucking ate everything in sight. Like, it just had gotten to a point where I was like, I gotta reel myself in. So I started to like get my eating a little bit under control, which definitely played into me losing weight. But I also started to work out, and I found Pure Barre. I did my first class, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? That moved really fast. It was definitely hard. There were tons of movements I could not do all the way through without stopping. If you've never done a Pure Barre class, that's kind of the whole thing, is like it's just constant movement and you never really stop. There's not a lot of breaks built in, just enough, but not really, especially if you haven't worked out for 2 years. So I did the class and I was like, holy shit, that was great. I feel like that's exactly what I've been looking for my entire life from a fitness perspective. I definitely was sweaty, but I was like dressed for it and I was expecting it and I was wanting it and I was needing it. And so I was like excited to go back and do it again. And I signed up for the package for unlimited classes because I was like, I need to do something like 3 times a week. And so that was a good value for me. And I really quickly, like within the first month, I started seeing changes in my body because I was not just working out, I was eating far better, but the workouts sort of motivated me to want to eat better and to do other things to take care of myself. And so that's where we get into this idea of fitness. Like now here we are, it's 5 years later, almost 5 years later. And I mix it up now, but I've only started mixing up my workouts. Like for over 4 years, I didn't do anything but Pure Barre. And it made me really strong and it absolutely transformed some of my body composition. Like my ass is really nice, I think. I feel like my upper body looks pretty good. So, and I have a very strong core. So it's definitely transformed my body. But in the last like 6-7 months or so, I've started to mix up my workouts. So it's not just Pure Barre. I do a few other things, but all of that to say, like the only reason I've been able to do something for 4 to 5 times a week, every week for the last 5 years is because I found a workout that I genuinely enjoyed doing. I didn't just enjoy it while I was there and then dread going. I genuinely enjoyed the whole thing. It took me a little while to like make friends. And I mean, I did toward the end by the time I moved. So I only lived in Charlottesville for 2.5 years. And I can't fucking believe it was only 2.5 years. Sometimes it feels like we lived there for 50 years and other time. And I don't even know what it feels like to do anything for 50 years because I'm not 50 years old. Sometimes it feels like we lived there forever. And then other times it feels like we just barely moved in, you know? And I always say, even when we were there, I feel like we lived there a little too early in our lives, at least for me. I would love to go back now. Now I think I'd be ready to do Charlottesville. It's just fucking life is weird and shit. Oh God, you'll never get out alive. Don't take it too seriously. So, it was a game changer for me to find something I liked. Within a few months, I started to like make some friends, people I talked to socially there at the studio, or like I became close with a couple of the teachers. I was interested in becoming a teacher, and I was so fortunate to be at the studio where the women that teach at that studio are some of the best that I've ever encountered. And I've been to a lot of Pure Barre studios and I've taken class from a lot of people, and still to this day, and it might be a little bit of a bias because it's like where I started, but it's also like I'm pretty good at being judgmental. And I can still say that the Charlottesville staff there, the teaching staff, is some of the best I've ever encountered. And part of that's because they stay around for a long time, which is unusual. You know, they got these same teachers today in 2020 that they had in 2015 when I started. And oh, by the way, some of those people in 2015 had already been teaching for a couple of years. That is staying power. So anyway, I did start to create a network socially through going to Pure Barre, but it was really finding this healthy thing I could do for myself. Got me out of the house, made me feel stronger, helped my wellness in all kinds of ways, gave me confidence. I was looking great in my clothes and feeling good about myself. It truly changed my life to find a fitness routine that I enjoyed, that I didn't dread going to, that I didn't force myself to go to. And so that's what I would give everyone, something like that should be the thing you think about. Now, maybe you're already at a place in your life where you have found your fitness routine, whatever it is, even if it's not like one specific workout, maybe what you love, maybe the way to get you to love your fitness routine is to do like 20 different things, right? Like maybe you're not going to just do spin at a spin studio. Maybe you're not going to just do your HIIT workout. Maybe you're not just going to go and do bar. Maybe you're going to do all these things and you'll only do bar or whatever the fuck thing 2 times a month. That's okay. As long as you're doing anything 3 or more times a week. So finding something you like and that you look forward to doing is the number one thing. And even if it's just walking, you can start with walking. But here's what I'm gonna tell you. Walking's not enough. Period. I said it. Oh my God. Send the fucking wellness police after me. Walking is a fine place to start. Walking is fine to incorporate into your routine. Nothing is wrong with walking. However, walking has its limitations for your fitness level. Like, it's just not going to create a hard enough workload over time for you to really transform your body. So fuck walking, right? Some people need to start there. If you're struggling, you can barely move, you get winded really easily, you have an injury, obviously start with walking. But this is what I'm saying. Eventually, walking's not going to be enough. You know why? Because what you need to do is you need to build muscle. So to all of the people listening who just do cardio, fucking stop it. Now, it's not to say don't do cardio, okay? But like, especially women, man, bitches be treadmilling. You know what I mean? Bitches be on the elliptical. Bitches be running. Ugh. I mean, again, it's not like there's something wrong with those. But if that makes up like 90% or more of your entire fitness routine, fuck, you are missing out on so much benefit of putting on muscle mass or just creating muscle in general. Doesn't have muscle mass, by the way. I said that and then I was like, oh wait, I don't want them to think like bodybuilding. You can build muscle and not get huge. That is a really important thing to be mindful of. People are like, I don't want to get bulky. Are you a woman? Like, unless you're taking testosterone, chances of you getting bulky, unless you're working out 8 hours a day, and I guarantee you're not going to happen. Not a fucking thing. And don't sit there and tell me, oh, well, I put on muscle really easy. Good for you. I should be so lucky. Like, you don't put on the kind of muscle that's going to make you look manly from the back. Like, if you got a bad haircut, no one's going to mistake you for being a man. It just can't happen. I understand if you're not interested in having your biceps pop out of your, swimsuit. I get it. But at the same time, that's really difficult to do if you're not training with enough load and enough hours. So get that idea out of your head. If you are the type of person who 90% of your workout, maybe not even, if more than 50% of your workout or your fitness program is cardio, i.e. you spin all the time or you run all the time, good for you. Your endurance is probably awesome, and I'm sure you could kick my ass when it comes to running. Hello, did we not discuss the boobs that I have? But that is not the only measure of your health and your wellness. It's not the only thing that will dictate how long you live or the quality of your life. So I'm not saying bad and don't do it, but what I'm saying is not good enough. So muscle creation is something that has become more important to me, and for 2 reasons. One, I really would like for my body composition to change. Or I guess I should say I have been working on changing my body composition a bit. So I would like to see some definition in my body. I'm not, again, because I'm not shooting myself up with steroids and I don't have a dick between my legs, I'm limited on how much muscle I'll be able to create in that regard. Fine by me. But I would just like if you pick up a heavy bag and you can see the bicep pop up, right? Or like even just with my arms by my side, not having like that mushy thing by my armpit, or like being able to see my tricep muscle. That's the kind of definition I'm looking for. I'd love it if I'm like wearing something strappy on the back and you can like see some definition in my shoulders. That to me, that's hot. Like that's what I'm trying to do. So I am trying to change my body composition. That's number one. Number two, here's why muscle, for women especially, building muscle is so badass. You ever heard of a little word called a metabolism? So we've all heard the whole thing of like muscle weighs more than fat, but here's the thing, muscle burns more calories than fat. Fat doesn't really do much of anything for you. It keeps you warm on a cold and lonely night, but it doesn't really do a whole lot from a health benefit. In fact, anything it does do is fairly negative, at least when you have unhealthy amounts of fat. Muscle, on the other hand, burns more calories. It just requires more energy, and it helps your body be more efficient in how it runs. So this is another reason why you really shouldn't worry about weight, because you know your weight can be made up of your fucking bones, the fluid in your body, and your muscles. So when you're thinking about tracking your progress, if you are using weight as a metric, honestly, if you're using weight at all, just stop it. I know, and I'm saying that knowing that that's really hard to let go of. I too struggle with that. But it's kind of like my emotional brain versus my logical brain, because I know good and well that weight is not the best and right barometer to track my progress. I'm much more interested in how do I look in photos? How do my clothes fit on me? Inches to some degree. Again, inches can sometimes be misleading if you are building muscle, but still far better than weight. So anyway, if you are using weight as the measure of like if you're making progress from your training and your eating or whatever, you're doing yourself and really your health a disservice. Because when you create more muscles, or when you build your muscles and feed your muscles in your body, they do more for you on the inside, meaning they increase your metabolism. And so I've watched a lot. In fact, I've watched every single one of this YouTuber and Instagram fitness influencer that I like on Instagram, obviously. Her name's Natasha Ocean. Natasha Ocean. She's British, and also she's Asian, but you wouldn't necessarily know by looking at her, but her name's Natasha, and she is so fucking cute, and I love her. She's smart as shit. She has a PhD in biophysics, so she's actually like a student of science. She's young, but she's really smart. She's prolific in terms of fitness guides she's created. So a lot of like my philosophy now on fitness was influenced by her and some of the things that she teaches about. And she's got an amazing physique. She looks incredible. She's lean, but she is strong. She's got muscle definition. She looks feminine, but she's like she looks strong, and I really am into that. So I've been listening more to some of the things she's teaching or that she talks about. And you guys probably know, if you don't know, if you haven't listened to all my shit in order, I'm a big fan of Ben Bergeron. He's a CrossFit coach, and he talks about muscle and how important it is for your health and all that. And so her whole thing, though, Natasha Ocean, when she talks about muscle mass and bodybuilding and hypertrophy training, all just different kinds of strength training, basically, she always talks about it in the context of how it supports increasing your metabolism. And you want your metabolism to be high functioning so that you can like keep your weight in a healthy range. And again, I'm using that term weight in a loose way. I just mean like stay fit and healthy. But then also, you don't have to restrict on your food so much. You know, like I said earlier, when I first started working out 5 years ago, I definitely started eating less. And I needed to. I was overeating given how inactive I was. But a lot of people will, and creating a caloric deficit must happen if you want to lose weight. But at the same time, and especially as we get older, if all you do is reduce how much you eat, you kind of constantly have to reduce how much you eat. Your body is eventually going to stabilize out. That's kind of the whole point of your metabolism. That's why people are like, oh, you know, if you, like for anorexic people or people with eating disorders where they restrict their calories, the idea is like, oh, well, you're going to slow down your metabolism. It's just like that. So the more you restrict, the slower your metabolism becomes, which means you're just constantly trying to fight this uphill battle. Like, how much less can I eat? And quite frankly, y'all, I'm not trying to subsist on rice cakes and spray butter for the rest of my life. I like to cook. I like to eat. I enjoy the experience of food. I want to eat healthful, nutritious things, but I don't want to be restricted to a point of deprivation about what and how much I can eat. So I'm trying to ensure that my body is operating as a machine that allows me to, eat as though I'm a normal, healthy, active person without that having the reverse effect of putting on fat. Because here's the deal. As you get older, you get closer to dying. And when you're dead, you don't burn any calories. So as you get older, your body starts to go, this is dark. It's happening. Your body starts to just like kind of a little bit sort of in a way, just teensy bit, like a little kind of shut down and brace itself for death. And how it does that is by reducing how many calories it uses and also how many calories it needs. So like you could argue it's kind of like, well, no, it's not. It's sort of like your body trying to be more efficient. It's like running on reserve battery, It's like it's like anything. It's preserving the resources it has. And so as you get older, you burn fewer calories, or rather, you might if you're not active and you're not working on metabolism. So what ends up happening is you may eat the same way that you always have. You may work out the same way you always have. And the things you did that once got you really good results may, in the best scenario, not have any results for you anymore, just kind of flat lines, you're not seeing progress, or more worst case, start to actually have negative outcomes for you where you gain weight. You know what I mean? Or I don't want to say you get weaker, but like it's why when, especially among, actually, it's really good at across both men and women. It's why you see men in particular who their metabolism goes really good for them for quite a long time in their life. And then all of a sudden, they hit like their 40s or their 50s and then whoop-boom, belly, or women, and especially after women have children, women, all of a sudden, these women who were teensy tiny their whole lives and they just get huge. Sometimes it's because they are eating worse or being less active, for sure. That can play into it. But in other cases, if it's just like a mild-ish, if it's like a 10 to 25 pound kind of weight gain, enough for it to be different and not feel great about themselves, that can happen just because your body, you are consuming the same amount of calories that you always have. You are burning the same amount of calories, or I should say, you are consuming the same amount of calories you always had, but your body isn't burning calories as much or in the same way because that's what happens as you get older. So when you're not building muscle, when you're not focused on strength training, your body's not burning energy as efficiently as it could, which could potentially create weight gain, even if you don't do anything quote unquote worse with your diet or your exercise. Oh my God. It's really exhausting to pretend to know what I'm talking about. But I guess my point here is fitness matters, right? That's why fitness matters. Strength training for fitness matters. And it's taken me a very, very long time to get there. And I'm still kind of early on in how I'm incorporating like resistance training into my workout. Pure Barre does have an element of resistance, but it is primarily body weight. Unless you do another format, we have a format that's called Pure Reform, and it's inspired by like Megaform or Pilates, and we do include more resistance. But I'm looking at more like hypertrophy style training options. So I'm early on in that, probably within my first few months. So I'm actually really excited to see what happens as I'm working on my fitness this year. Just, taking in what I've learned and what my goals are and all that stuff. So the first big thing when it comes to fitness is find something you like. And if you try something and you don't like it, fuck it. Don't go do it anymore. There's plenty of shit out there. Like there are so many fitness concepts. You can do stuff at home. You can do stuff one-on-one. You can do stuff with a group. Like it's limitless. And then on top of that, it's like, okay, do I want to do something that's really exciting and high energy and like in your face and loud? Do I need something that's a little more chill? Do I need to mix it up and do a lot of different things? Do I want to stick with one and just like really master that? You have so many options. If you've done like 3 concepts of fitness and you're like, well, I didn't like any of them, keep looking. Like if you haven't tried 30 formats of fitness, then you haven't tried enough, because there is something out there for everyone. I really do believe that. That's the first thing. Number 2, resistance training, strength training should be a component of your fitness routine. We talked about that ad nauseum. And then number 3, you need to do something at least 3 times a week. I don't care if that's a lot to you. I deal with people all the fucking time who think that even doing 1 workout a week is asking a lot of them because they're so busy. Oh my God. Okay. Yikes. I'm about to go off. But it must be done. I must go off. I actually need to check the time. Hold on. How are we doing? We're okay. But I am about to go off because when I speak to people coming in and trying Pure Barre for the first time, one of the things I want to know is like, what's your plan for fitting this into your schedule, especially if it's a parent, because I know that they will use their kids as an excuse. And yes, you heard me right. You are using your child as an excuse. How fucking dare you? You should be ashamed of yourself for that. You can't do that. I understand. I'm putting my hand up for those of you that can't see me. I'm putting my hand up because I get it. I understand there will be days and times where you really can't leave your house to work out because you have no one to watch the child at home. I understand that. But I also understand that chances are let's say you're a single parent, right? If you're a single parent and you get asked out on a date with someone you want to go with, I'm going to guess you'll figure out what to do with your kid so you can go on that date. Or if you have 2 parents at home, if you have a partner or spouse and it's simply a matter of your spouse is working late and you won't have anyone to watch, same fucking thing. Like, my guess is if you have a halfway decent relationship, then you need to give your spouse a little pushback. You need to fucking watch the kids tomorrow night since I had to be with them tonight. Or you need to get your fucking lazy ass out of bed early in the morning before all the shit starts. Or you need to come on the weekend. Like I have clients that have 3+ children who still work out, and they have full-time jobs and they still work out 3-4 times a week. It can be done. It is about your priorities. And ultimately, if you are saying, I can't make 3 workouts a week happen, whether it's at home, whether it's in a gym, at a studio, whatever, then it is a choice. That's a choice for you. You're choosing to make everything except for your health a priority. And I mean, frankly, that's on you. That has nothing to do with me. But I really hate when people say that they can't, come and take class with us because of their children. It fucking infuriates me. It's like, you're going to be a better example for your children if they see that you are prioritizing health. Okay, I can't. I'm just going to I'm going to wrap it up on that topic because that's a can, and that is a can, and I cannot right now. Cute. That was cute. I really liked how I just put a bow on that. But you know what? If you want to come for me, come for me. I am ready for you. All I do is sit and wait for someone to come and get shitty with me because I train for it every day. Guess what? I'm a stoic. I'm really behind on that book. But I am working on my mental fortitude and I am ready and I am not fazed and I don't give a fuck. And I'll tell you what, there's no one more dangerous to interact with than a person who has no fucks to give. Not even an ounce of an eighth of a fuck. It's gone. There's none. I feel that way. I stand by what I said. I do. And I can say that because I know people all over who have, I guarantee, worse schedules than you, and they still make it work. And that, my friends, is why I don't give a fuck what your excuses are. So those are the 3 things. Find something you love, incorporate resistance training, and then don't use your children as an excuse because that's rude. If someone used me as an excuse for why they couldn't do something, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, how fucking dare you blame me for your laziness? Have no time for that. Okay, as as always, thanks for listening to this episode of That's Right, Bitches. If you liked this podcast or if you hated it, make sure you're following us. So subscribe for the podcast, subscribe on the YouTube channel. That's right. We do film. By we, I mean me. I do film this shit as a live video, Joe Rogan style. So if you just want to see me like talking a little bit at the screen and sitting in front of my ovens, you can do that. So yeah, like, rate, review, subscribe. It'd be cool if you had a chat with a friend today who you thought might enjoy this. Feel free to click the little 3 dots at the top of your screen there or the share button and send the link over to them, because that's what it's all about. Sharing's caring, folks. I think you knew that. Until next time, y'all. Bye-bye.